all right. How you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
Good, Big O. How are you?
Excellent. It's Eagles week. So
it's a big one.
Yeah, I'm not telling you it's Clemson week because that season's done already.
Yeah.
So
it had that Clemson week had the potential to be a big week, but the Canes didn't come through.
No, unfortunately. And I feel bad. I feel bad for Mario because I know he's a good man, a hard worker, all of that. I'm a Mario guy. I want him to succeed. But man, he is
a rough few weeks. Yeah.
A rough year and a half because last year was not good either. He did not do well last year. Even with the talent he had, he did not maximize what he had. Middle Tennessee State is not a game you ever lose with the talent you have.
No matter what. Yeah, no matter what. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And that's what I've felt bad for him, that on the X's and O's side, it hasn't, worked out. Unlike the guy you got to cover every day, they can give him me and he will do something. And you're like, wow.
You and I,
something with Orlando's sorry ass. Like, wow, like that's crazy, and that's the difference that you end up, you cover, in other words, this guy could go into Kitchen Nightmares and just, Chef Ramsay would be crying when he's all said and done because Spo would make him just look bad. That's how good of a chef, Eric Spoelstra is.
Yeah, Cristobal is more of a talent. He acquires talent, right? That's his strength. And look, that's to be honest with you, I don't know if you probably don't agree with me, Big O, but I'd rather have a guy who's a great recruiter than an X's and O's guy in college football, and I just hope that he surrounds himself with really good assistants that help him on the the other stuff.
Yeah, because in the NBA you end up like Del Harris. I got you. You can have the talent, but then you don't know how to cook the ingredients, and then you got to go get Phil Jackson.
Yeah,
and gets the same team and wins the title. I am 1,000% with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah. In college football, you can get away with that. Now,
your talent.
Your problem is if you're going up against a guy like Saban, who can recruit and coach his ass off.
Right.
Now you've got a problem. But you're right. In general, not in college basketball, but in college football, you probably can get away with just being, a really damn good recruiter if you can get the right assistant coaches.
Yeah. So I still think, look, Miami fans are impatient. Look, I grew up a Hurricanes fan. I know what it's like. I want to see them be back as well. But it's going to take time. Like, I know people want to hear that, and there's no excuse for losing Middle Tennessee State. But this is always going to be a 4-year thing. You can't just expect the team to change in 2 years. Like, I know it's different now with NIL and all that, but still, it's going to take some time for Mario to get his guys in there. So yes, unfortunately, the season looked like it was going in the right direction. The last 2 weeks have been a step backward, but I still think Mario will get this program on track eventually.
We got drunk on that Texas A&M Kool-Aid.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. It was a tease. It was a big tease, unfortunately. And that seems like it happens every year. Maybe not a Texas A&M win, but a win like that early in the year, and Hurricane fans start to get excited, and then they crash back down to earth after a loss to Virginia or Georgia Tech or something like that. Ghost
of R.C. Chokum, and we bought into it because they just so you know, because you're a little young. Yeah. Texas A&M used to have a coach called R.C. Slocum.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Right. And I used to call him R.C. Chokum. Because, dude, every time Texas A&M was in a big game with Slocum, it was a Chokum.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would call him R.C. Chokum. And so R.C. Chokum's spirit is still in there. And we got to understand we beat Texas A&M. That's the choking ghost is still there. That's really not – That's like when they told me a couple of weeks ago, well, the Dolphins still have a couple other real hard tests, and they told me the Cowboys won. I go, come on, bro. When are the Cowboys a measuring stick for anybody that you
right.
Right.
Right. So, and looking back on it, Texas is a good program, but they're not even ranked right now. So it's like, what can you really take away from that?
We learned our lesson. When you beat Texas A&M, you haven't arrived, bro. It's a win. That's it. That's it.
It's a good win, but yeah.
Jamal Cain. So when are they starting him?
When is he eliminating Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals and going for Eastern Conference Finals MVP?
Going for the league. Jamal Cain.
He looks a lot better. You give him credit, right? Like,
I love him.
He's been there for a year in the Heat system, and he's gotten a lot better. And in areas that make him a usable player, that makes him a big fit for this team. He's a better three-point shooter, which he needs to do to have playing time on this roster. He's a better defender on the ball, off the ball than he was when he got there. He still has his athleticism. He's a good offensive rebounder. He could do things. He doesn't need the ball, obviously, to make an impact. He has a skill set that fits in a lot of lineups that the Heat play next to Bam and Jimmy. And he's molded his game to be that type of player so he can play if needed on this team. So I think it's been encouraging for him and good for Jamal that he's been able to show the work he's put in. Is he going to have a huge role on this team?
No.
Probably not. I mean, that's the famous last words, right? Then all of a sudden he turns into a rotation player, the next project, the next success story. But right now, yeah, it's probably, he's a depth guy. He's a guy that, if he makes this roster, which I mean, it's hard to imagine he's not going to make the roster at this point with how he's been playing.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a good depth guy to have. If there's injuries, if we need somebody in there to provide energy, he's got to have at the the back end of the roster.
And as Ira pointed out too, he's versatile. He's doing everything.
Yeah.
So you got a jack of all traits.
Yeah.
Plus, I love that he's fearless, bro. That's what I love the most about Jamal Cain. You can tell that guy attacks everything, bro. Everything. And let me give you a prediction on the Miami Heat. Okay. They are going to be a better team than they were last year. They will have a better record than last year. They will have a much better standing than last year. They're going to be a much better team. Now, do they get to the finals again? That's where this prediction's a little bit hairy. Yeah. Okay. Because let's face it, they barely made the playoffs last year and then they got hot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot like
the
Panthers needed like a 4-string goaltender to get hot so they could sneak into the playoffs to then go to the Stanley Cup. So I'm not predicting that they'll get to the finals again, but I am predicting that they will be a better team in the regular season. So for the people that are worried about the two guys that they lost, I think they're easily going to replace those guys. The ball handling might be a little bit more of a challenge, but I still think they have enough scorers, playmakers, and I think they're going to be a better defensive team this year too because they've got more people in the paint now that can defend. They've got more rebounders now, including Jamal Cain, by the way, coming off the bench that can get you some extra rebounds. So now you don't have to extend Kevin Love so much in minutes because you have somebody behind him. Now you don't have to extend Bam so much because you have people, behind them. So you're deeper. I think you're going to be better this year. And it's a strange thing to say when they went to the finals because then, are you telling us that we're going to win the title? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is the regular season version of the Heat you got last year is not going to be the one you're going to get this year. You're going to get you're going to watch a much better brand of basketball throughout the year. That's my prediction.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that 100%. Because, last year was weird, right? So that's why this prediction might seem a little strange to somebody. We're like, they're going to be better, but they're not going to win the championship or they're not going to make the finals.
Right.
They weren't as bad as they underperformed in the regular season last year. They shouldn't have been that bad. And they overperformed in the playoffs. So it's somewhere in between, right? I don't expect them to underperform in the regular season again. I do think they have a roster that's better suited for the regular season because they have more functional depth this year, like you said, more depth that makes sense, more a good backup center option, more viable backup center options. You have Kevin Love for a full season. You have Jaime Jaquez, who, it gives you something they really didn't have off the bench last year. You lost Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, but Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, I think people kind of forget they weren't actually that good in the regular season. You look at their numbers, efficiency-wise, they weren't great. So yes, I
told you
think there'll
the
be
thing I'm concerned about is the ball handling.
ball handling, yeah. Which I get it.
The
Yeah,
defense, the defense rebounding and scoring, dude, that'll all be replaced. You're not even going to miss a damn bit of that.
yeah,
The ball handling, okay, that's
yeah.
that's one question mark.
You lost Gabe, but look, yes, Gabe was starting point guard for the last 3 or 4 months of the season, but you have so many guys who can handle the ball, and that's kind of the unique thing about this team is that it's not just the point guard. They have Jimmy who could play as a quote unquote point guard. They have Tyler Hero who could play as a point guard. Bam Adebayo is unique in that way where he can run the offense and facilitate from the high post. Now you have Jaime Jaquez, Kevin Love. Now you have Jaime Jaquez who can have the ball in his hands. Yeah, you have Caleb Martin. Like there's so many guys that you can run the offense through.
IQ guys,
Yes. Yeah. So and versatile guys, which is what Eric Spoelstra likes. Guys that could play different roles, different positions. So I think that's gonna be something to watch. Who's gonna play point guard? How much is Kyle Lowry gonna start? How are they gonna handle that? But I don't think it's as big of an issue as people are making out to be because they have so many guys who can do it.
Yeah. And so that's what I would tell the Heat fan that while it was a really frustrating year last year during the regular season, right. I think we're going to have an enjoyable, barring injury, of course, which
of course that's the big thing. That's the big, yeah, right.
That's everybody's,
and that's every team. Yeah,
that's every team. But barring the injuries, from what I'm watching in the preseason, I love what I'm watching, dude. I love the depth now that I'm watching. And, I know he loves to kind of pare it down when he gets to the playoffs, but this gives him an opportunity to have a fresher team when he gets to the playoffs too, because I think he has the deepest roster he's had in a few years now. And so I think he's going to be able to kind of play with this a little bit. And because of the rules, by the way, maybe Jimmy can't miss 20 games. He can only miss 12. And so if you have him for 8 more, that's going to add some victories too, because that also ended up costing you some victories and costing you seeding spots because he missed so many games.
Yeah, and you have so many different styles you could play, which I think is going to be a strength of this team as well. Like, I think they'll have a fixed starting lineup for the most part, but Eric Spoelstra has done this in the past, and he can do that with this roster of like kind of changing the rotation based on the opponent because he has so many different ways he could go. He could play small with Caleb power forward. I know you don't love that, but still they could. They could play big. They could play big with Kevin Love at power forward, or even Thomas Bryant and Bam because Thomas Bryant can shoot threes. They have so many different styles they could play with this roster. Again, as long as they stay healthy, like you said, that's been the big, like last year, one of the big reasons they underperformed in the regular season is they had the most missed games due to injury in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's hard to overcome. Fans don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. When so many guys are in and out of the lineup, yeah, maybe it's not Bam and Jimmy missing 40 games, but anybody who misses a chunk of time, it's gonna throw a wrench into things. The rotation has to change, lineups have to change, and that takes a while to get used to, and it's gonna throw teams off. And it just seemed like all season last year, guys are in and out, and that really took a toll on the roster. In the playoffs, like you said, they got hot. I don't expect a playoff run like that again, only because it's kind of unprecedented as an 8 seed to do that. All of a sudden, they were the worst 3-point shooting team, and then they were the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler turned into Michael Jordan. He was putting up historic numbers. So it's hard to say that's going to happen again. To your point of like not predicting them to make the finals again, but in the regular season, to say they're going to be better than last year, I think that's if they're healthy, I think they should be better than last year as far as record wise.
Here's the twisted part about being a Heat fan compared to, I think, every other team pretty much in the league. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you can only say this with the Heat, and I want the Heat fan to realize this, okay? Because this is the truth right here. This is how twisted it is. Okay. You go and look at this roster right now, and you look at the talent just like you did last year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that. And you look at the talent, you go, yeah, no, those guys aren't going to the finals. Yeah, you're not winning the title. You're not going to the finals. You're not going to the Eastern Conference. But this is the only franchise in the NBA that you could say, wait a minute, bro. Don't do that here.
It's not that simple. Yeah.
Guy there, no. Don't say that. And that's the thing about being a Heat fan. It's a jack in the box. We really don't know what we're getting. You know what I mean? And so if you put a label on them right away, you made a huge mistake already at this point, where you can do that practically with every other team in the NBA. Any team that doesn't have a championship roster or a conference finals roster, you can look at them and say, yeah, there's no shot, and they probably won't get there. But with the Heat, they're probably the only team that their roster doesn't look like it belongs in the conference or in the NBA finals, yet don't count them out. And that's kind of the beauty of being a Heat fan, because what are you going to do? 5 years in a row, you're going to deny it?
Right. Yeah.
Stupid, at this point. And so that's what I like about what this season holds. And that's why I'm a little excited about it, because as I'm watching the preseason, I'm watching a really deep team, dude.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're a good team. Yeah,
man.
And it's like you said, it's not just a blind fan, like you like to call it, right? It's we've seen proof of it. We've seen proof the last 4 years of, this team, they're not as good as Boston, Milwaukee this year. They're third, fourth seed, maybe on Philly, Boston, Milwaukee, and all of a sudden they're in the NBA Finals, or they're in the Eastern Conference Finals in Game 7. So we've seen it. This group the last 4 years has proven they're one of the best teams in the East. As long as Bam, Jimmy, and Spo, that trios together, and the Heat get the pieces around them, whether it's Caleb Martin, Max Strus, and Gabe Vincent last year, they developed those guys. They're going to have a chance. Again, you and I maybe aren't predicting them to win a championship.
No.
Do I expect them to put themselves in position to at least compete to make a deep playoff run? Sure, because they've done it the last 4 years. It'd be stupid of me to say, oh no, they're not going to be good this year. They're going to be a one and done team in the first round. They'll be done. How could I say that based on what they've done the last 4 years? Right. So I think it's the track record, and I think people underestimate just how good Jimmy Butler is in the playoffs. All of a sudden, he turns into a top 5 player in the league. Bam Adebayo, his impact on both ends, and then the role players around them, especially this year, they have more than ever. They always seem to produce, and by the playoffs, they always seem to kind of feel comfortable in their roles and know their roles, and you see that in the with this team and what they do in the playoffs.
Blind ass fan alert! Look out, everyone! We've got a blind ass fan coming through.
There you go. See,
I like that.
Yeah, we don't.
You're producing.
That's Sean. That's Sean, of course, with the blind ass fan alert. But no blind ass. That's why I told you. I like this team more than last year's team. And so I know I have the best coach in the NBA coaching those guys. So, sky's the limit. You can go out and surprise anybody. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Miami and Milwaukee in the conference finals. And all of a sudden the storylines come right to a head where he could have been on that team, and now that team is facing him and
eliminate him,
to go to the finals. And so I wouldn't put it past them. And that's the beauty of being a Heat fan, is that you legitimately have a shot.
Yeah. And the fun thing is, again, the Heat are in the underdog role, quote unquote, because nobody really expects them to get back there.
That's right.
So anything they do is going to be a surprise again, because Boston, Milwaukee are seen as the clear-cut favorites in the East. Cleveland even has better odds to win the East. People, Philly, who knows with them, but they're kind of in that tier with the Heat, according to the national media. So anything the Heat does in the playoffs is going to be a surprise again, even though they were in the NBA Finals last year and they returned basically the entire roster except for 2 guys.
Yep. All right, what do you got going on in the Herald so folks can check you out, my friend?
Yeah, so posted 2 things yesterday. One on Tyler Hero. He's obviously had a really good preseason. Scored 30 points on Sunday night. He's looking to be more efficient this year, and that's a natural evolution of a player entering his 5th season. He's going to be more efficient. The game slows down for him a little bit. So he talked about kind of the evolution of his game. And then 2, I've been getting a lot of questions about how the new CBA is going to impact how the Heat can build their roster. Not only this season, additions they can make this season with trades and buyout guys, but even, moving into next season. So I have a Q&A up of different questions I've received about how the new CBA and the punitive rules impact the Heat moving forward. So check both those things out on MiamiHerald.com.
I almost feel like it's sadly, if you don't, it's almost like if you don't have to make any moves in the next couple of years and kind of get back on track to having your picks on a consistent basis, then maybe you could start to have some leverage that you need to make moves and all of that. Then again, that'll be past the Jimmy Butler era and all that too. You know what I mean? But it's just, it's kind of like they've put themselves in this position over the last few years where they mishandled their picks and trades, and then they're tied up in cap wise with certain salaries, and it's just they've made it so much harder on themselves. In other words, in order to try to land that star and all those kind of things the last, I don't know, 7-8 years or something like it's been really a tough situation.
And
they were too loose with their picks, put it that way.
Yeah, a few years ago, yes. They're starting to get their picks back, right? Like, because they haven't made, we've talked about, they haven't really made a trade in a while. So those picks are starting to become available again. And who knows? I'm not going to ever rule anything out, but it does seem, based on like how much their hands are going to be tied with these new rules and what we've seen the last couple of years where they haven't been able to make the big trade because not many teams like the assets they're offering. It seems like the Jimmy Butler era, this is it, right? I just don't, it's going to be Tyler, Bam, and Jimmy, see how far they go. I just, it's hard to envision them adding that next star before Jimmy's prime is over. So again, can't rule anything out. You never know. But because of all the variables, it just seems like this is the team in the Jimmy Butler era, and we'll see what happens.
Follow him on Twitter and Anthony_Chiang. Anthony, as always, appreciate you, my brother. We'll catch up later on in the week.
Thanks, Big O. Have a good day.
You got it. There you go, Anthony Chiang. And when we talk about Baptist Health, I love Baptist Health, man. I got a facility right close to us. When I had the issue with my heart and my chest was getting tight and all that, that's where I went, right there. Right next to us, we have one of the, it's not like brand new, but it's pretty close, right off of 95th and 162nd, the West Kendall location for Baptist. And depends on where you live. If you're in Boynton Beach, we've got an East and a West Bethesda. If you're down in the Keys, we've got a Marathon Key on Fisherman's Community. We've got one in Homestead. We've got one in Tavernier Key, Mariners Hospital, out in Doral. We've got out in Boca Regional, out at 800 Meadows Road. Got a new location where Hard Rock Stadium is at. BaptistHealth.net/ortho. Use that QR code right there, folks. Whether it's been my heart condition, whether it was my wife's jaw, daughter's finger, daughter being born, colonoscopy for me, colonoscopy for the wife. I mean, BaptistHealth.net has been there for our family all the way through, folks, through our entire lives, pretty much. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care, led by renowned Chief Medical Executive John Uribe, combines its resources of experienced physicians and leading-edge treatments and technology to provide advanced orthopedic foot and ankle and trauma joint replacement, spine, hand, and sports medicine care. Visit BaptistHealth.net/ortho for more information.
This is the Big O Show. This is the